Hi, and welcome to Fanimorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles. My name is Mikhail, the host of the show, and this is a special introductory episode strictly meant to explain who we, the Fanimorphs, are, and what our podcast is all about. In this episode, I'll lay out the basic idea behind the podcast, our release schedule, and I'll explain a few things for those who haven't read the Animorphs series but are interested in getting into it. Let's start with what this podcast actually is. We are three friends with varying degrees of exposure to the YA novel series called Animorphs by K.A. Applegate. Every other week, we read and discuss one of the books in the series, starting from the beginning, and working our way through every entry in the main series and the others, including the spin-offs and side stories. On the off weeks, we release mini episodes that go over the animals that we encountered in the last book we read. These mini episodes are called Live from the Gardens. So who exactly are we? Like I said, we each have a unique perspective on the series. Tessa, for example, is a die-hard fan, having read the series multiple times. She knows more about the Animorphs than I ever thought existed. Braden, on the other hand, is completely new to the series. While he knew of its existence before we started this podcast, he hadn't read a single book. As you'll see, we rely pretty heavily on Braden when it comes to effectively summarizing plot lines and providing us with predictions for the rest of the series. As for me, I fall pretty squarely in the middle of the other two. While I did read all the books in the main series when I was younger, I've barely touched the extraneous books, and my memory of the whole thing is pretty foggy, to be honest. My job in the podcast is to rein in the other two so Tessa doesn't give too much away, and Braden doesn't dirty the ivory tower that Tessa has built for the series. And that's pretty much it. If you've never read the series and want a brief overview of the premise, keep listening and I'll cover a bit of that at the end of this episode. If you've read it before, you plan on reading it along with us, or you're just plain not interested in hearing the plot, you can stop listening here and start in on episode 1 of Fanimorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles. The premise of the series is this. A group of 5 unassuming young teenagers accidentally stumble upon a dying alien in an empty construction site. The alien, before being killed by a rival alien who lands in the site minutes later, gives the teenagers the power to morph. This power allows them to absorb the DNA of any living thing and transform into it for a maximum of 2 hours. If they stay in this form for more than 2 hours, they are permanently stuck in that form. The dying alien warns them of an invasion on Earth, an invasion perpetrated by the Yeerks, a parasitic species of alien slugs that can enter the mind of any creature with a brain and effectively control their every action. The teens are tasked with infiltrating this invasion and stopping it at all costs. And there are plenty of costs. As for the rest of the story, you'll just have to listen into the podcast and find out for yourself. Until next time, this has been Fanimorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles.